Launch ready for WWE Aftershock in 3, 2, 1. World Wrestling Entertainment Discussion is live. Cue host Owen Finch.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to WWE Aftershock Extra. I'm Owen the Birdman Finch, and I'm here with someone who's making his debut on this channel, and we've been trying to get this done for a while, but then our schedules finally were able to make it work. I'm here with...
I'm T. Freddy, also known as Thomas Peterson, and I'm super honored to be on your show, my friend.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. We've been trying to make this work for a while. We've met a few times. But we've kept in contact through Snapchat and everything like that. So it's pretty cool that we were finally able to make this work. Now, before obviously we do the video that we came here to do, since it's a debut, I want to make sure that the fans and everyone else can kind of get to know you a little bit. How'd you come up with a nickname first? Because obviously everyone on the show has a nickname. They usually say they've come up with it. How did you come up with this nickname?
The awesome school that me and the fantastic Finch met at Massasoit, they were doing these custom banners, and there wasn't enough space for my first and last name of Thomas Peterson. So I was like, you know what? My middle name is Frederick, and someone came up to me and was like, what if you made T. Freddy? And I was like, wait, that fits. And actually, I have a second nickname that I wasn't sure if I was going to mention, but you know what? This is a big day. I'm on my guy's show, so I'll mention it. When I was younger, I used to have a KWE show on YouTube, and I did kids wrestling entertainment. And I was the biggest heel in the company, and my name on that show was Crushhead.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, you know what? I'll mention it on the show. What better show to mention it? But yeah, T. Freddy, Crushhead, anything works, you know?
Can you still find this somewhere, or no?
There's one video on the station. It's like the farewell video. So basically it's like a tribute, and it has a lot of highlights throughout the years. But that video would be on, I think if you search up KWE/TWF wrestling, it'd be on there. We did it from 2011 to 2015.
Wow, so you did that for a while.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. We had my brother was the biggest baby face in the company, and I was the biggest heel. So every WrestleMania and SummerSlam, we would have a ring with like tarp and stuff in the backyard, and we would record pay-per-views and then watch the WWE pay-per-view after. It'd be like a best of both.
Oh, that's perfect. But yeah, kind of talking about how we met. We talked about we met at Massasoit. I was just in the cafeteria one day. And I remember you yelled out that you liked my shirt because I was wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. I didn't know who was yelling out at first, and I didn't even know it was directed at me because there's so many people in the cafeteria. And then I saw that you were the one directing it at me. Obviously, unfortunate, we didn't really get to talk much that day because I'm pretty sure college life is pretty busy. I had something to go do that day, so and then our schedules never matched up where we would be on campus at the same time, and then unfortunately, I think you started going to Massasoit, and we met like right before I graduated, and the pandemic, so we never really got to have a sit down much and have like a one-on-one talk until like a couple years ago when we went and like it was like 2022, like the first time we both went and talked. But yeah, did you just notice the wrestling shirt, or because obviously it's nice to get other people's perspective of how we met, type of thing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember being in the caf, and like you said, there's a bunch of people in the caf, especially a college caf, and I'm looking around, and it stood out in a positive way. I looked over there, and I was like, oh my gosh, a fellow wrestling fan. And you're wearing, in my opinion, someone in the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers that day of Stone Cold. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Let me talk to him. And here we are years later on your show. It's full circle. Do you remember, my friend, last time I saw you in person? I don't know. You might remember. Do you know when that was?
2022. I'm pretty sure it wasn't long after Brawl Out, the first one. with Punk and the Elite, so that was a big topic at the time.
Because yeah, it was that TD Garden, yeah, and then
Oh, okay, yeah. Now the last time we saw each other in person, actually, that was pretty random too. I forgot about this one, and you just reminded me. We were both going to AEW in Boston, and it was pretty coincidental, but pretty cool. You saw me like getting on to like I'm not too familiar with that area, but we were like about to go to our seats and everything like that. And we ended up spotting each other. I think we were about to go to that supermarket or whatever. It was like towards that place. So
near the escalators, right?
yeah.
I think. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Owen. I gotta say hello, And what was it? I think it was it the show that Mercedes debuted, or
Yeah.
am I thinking of it? Yes, it was. What was it? Cat. Like, what was the name of the show again? I forgot. It was something for.
Big business, big business.
Yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get a picture with him. And did I ever tell you that before? Well, the picture that me and you had that day was before I met. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Who was it? Mike Bennett, so Maria's husband.
Yep.
From. And did I ever tell you? So I met them after I took the picture with you. In a small world, Mike's sister was a former professor of mine at Massasoit.
Oh yeah, because she was a professor. She worked at Massasoit. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That is very much a small world type of thing. So, is she is her last name still Bennett? Because obviously, that's the only way you would really know that and like make the connection.
Well, because yeah, so I think it's Lee Bennett, and then I remember I was in her class, and I think they were talking about something about what's a fun fact about each other, and she got to her, and one of her fun facts was actually my brother is a professional wrestler, and I was like, wait, who's your brother? Pulled up the Wikipedia page, I was like,
Yep.
Oh my gosh, what a small world.
So yeah, it really is a small world how that happens. Before we get to the topic, obviously another thing I like to do is talk about how when they were on the first time, talk about how they got into wrestling. I've had everyone do this for the most part. So yeah, how did you get into wrestling? Obviously, I think you've told me before, but obviously it never hurts to repeat the story. What got you into the business and everything like that?
Let's see, it was February 2010, and I remember my brother was watching. I think he was watching Friday Night SmackDown, and it had that amazing theme song from back in the day, and it had Edge and Taker on the intro and stuff. And I remember I was in the other room overhearing it, and my brother asked me if I wanted to watch it. And for some reason, I had a brain fart at the time. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not. I don't think I'd be into it. For some reason, I didn't really give it a shot. I didn't give it a shot. And then I think the next week, I was sick. So I was like, I was bored. I didn't know what to do. My brother asked me again. He was like, okay, Thomas, what about today? Would today be the day? And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'm in the mood to watch something new. And I watch it and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a new profession. And when I was younger, I remember family members saying, oh, Thomas, is this just like a phase? Is this like, are you going to like something else in a couple weeks? And I was like, no, I think I'm going to further enjoy it for a very, very long time. And here we are 15 years later on my guy's podcast. Edge will now cope in AEW, but Edge definitely was my first favorite wrestler. And the first live pay-per-view I ever watched was WrestleMania 26. So it was cool seeing, Jericho and Edge and Taker and Michaels and Triple H, Sheamus, Batista, Cena. And ever since then, I've been hooked. And it's been a pretty cool ride.
Yeah, it's been a cool ride for me too. I got into it in 2007. Same thing. Well, mine was my cousin was over. He wanted to watch SmackDown, and then the first thing I saw was they would build up to WrestleMania 23 between Undertaker and Batista, and it's that segment where Undertaker's like in the graveyard talking about Batista's gonna rest in peace. it didn't really stick much then because obviously he didn't come over. But then he came over again. It was shortly after WrestleMania 23. We watched the whole SmackDown. It was the SmackDown where it's before Backlash 2007, where Undertaker and Batista faced Finley and Mr. Kennedy, and then yeah, I just started watching weekly. It was on CW at the time, which that's why it's kind of cool to me that NXT's there now, because obviously that's the first station that I watched SmackDown, and I was only watching SmackDown. I didn't really know about Raw, because and obviously Raw at the time was on at like 9 o'clock to 11, so you really couldn't watch Raw. It was on pretty late, and then pretty much by the end of the year, I was watching all three shows that were on at the time, which were Raw, ECW, and SmackDown, which is pretty cool. And yeah, just fast forward, however many years later, I'm still watching. I'm covering all the shows now, and it's really cool. I don't know if anyone thought it would be a phase for me, because usually when I'm pretty passionate about something and pretty into something, I give it all out. Before wrestling, it was SpongeBob, and then wrestling's been the big constant, but obviously I branch into other shows on my non-wrestling channel that I've watched, and movies that I'm pretty passionate about. But wrestling's the big number one. But yeah, now that we kind of dived into all that, let's get into today's topic. So today we're going to be doing predictions for WWE Clash in Paris. Obviously, this is the PLE. It airs tomorrow or today, depending on when this gets uploaded. Another afternoon PLE. I'm loving these international shows. This is something that we've wanted from WWE for a while, was for them to do international shows, and ever since Triple H took over, they've been doing a lot of international events these last couple of years, and this year it's been really, probably the most consistent, because now we've had a few Raw and SmackDowns air overseas, and now in Paris. This is the first time they've been back in Paris, other than SmackDown last night, but they were in Backlash France last year, and that was a tremendous show. And yeah, we have a good little card going on right here. We have about 6 matches. That's been pretty consistent for WWE PLEs ever since Triple H has taken over. How do you feel about that? A lot of people don't really like the shorter pay-per-view cards. I'm personally okay with them, because I feel like it's okay for the show to breathe, and also kind of makes it tougher to get on the PLE cards. But a lot of people think that they should do more matches. Do you like the shorter PLE cards, or do you think they should do more matches on the shows?
Before I answer that, my friend, rest in peace to the Peacock era, because I think this is the last pay-per-view in the Peacock era, right? I think.
Well, NXT will still be there, but yeah, those will be like the last main roster PLE on Peacock. So.
I miss the network so much. I miss the network.
Me too. Yeah.
So I do like that analogy you mentioned, my friend, of it's harder to get on the pay-per-views when there's less matches, which is true. It makes people more motivated. It makes people have more of a work ethic to make it to the PLE, to resonate more with the fans, because there being less matches than before. Yeah, if this makes any sense, I think it depends on the card. It's kind of like, if it's a really great card, it kind of gets overshadowed in a sense of, you kind of forget that there's only 6, because it's just banger after banger after banger, and you're like, wow, it flew by. Oh yeah, because it was 6. But I think for me, it depends on the pay-per-view. I do like the difference, though. One of the many cool differences that Hunter's done in his new era. But I think it being not one of the big 4 pay-per-views, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Mania, Rumble, I think 6 is probably good for this one. But maybe if we were talking about a different time of the year, it might be different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, let's just get right into it. I haven't done the show much, because obviously I've been busy the last couple of weeks, so I'll just kind of give my take of how I thought wrestling has been since SummerSlam, since that's the last time I was on here. Overall, Raw and SmackDown have still been pretty consistent. I I've still enjoyed the shows. Obviously, I think we're in a little bit of a lull at the moment in between the big shows. Um, Usually the fall time frame to be a wrestling fan is not the best time, just because football starts to come back, so a lot of people's interest kind of goes there. Um, we're not really at a big four pay-per-view. I know Survivor Series is coming up, but Survivor Series the last few years has been kind of diminished a little bit. I think Triple H saved it by doing War Games, but now I think we're kind of starting to see that we're getting into a little bit of a predictable format, where now a lot of the booking's going to be setting up that War Games match, whatever it's going to be. It's going to obviously be something with the Vision versus like Punk and all that stuff, which we'll get into. I think too. Also, we've had a lot of PLEs in very quick succession the last few months, so we've kind of had some downtime up until this PLEs. But I've still enjoyed the shows. I just think usually fall is a little bit of a lull in wrestling. But I said SummerSlam. Have you still been enjoying the shows and everything? Or maybe you haven't been enjoying the shows. Obviously I don't want to speak for you, type of thing.
It was it was cool seeing others fans' perspectives as well on like the in between period between Mania and SummerSlam, where me and other fans included were saying how there were a lot of more highlights, in my opinion, with SummerSlam compared to WrestleMania this year. I felt SummerSlam was definitely better. You put it perfectly how this is kind of the period where it's like NFL is coming back, so like some people are gravitating towards that. But I think honestly, I think it's been cool how they have navigated, the Netflix era, all these moving parts and stuff. They're doing the best they can, considering they still have the, competition with other companies as well. It's cool how they've adapted. I honestly believe that this is going to be a cool start to, like you said, what they have going on for Survivor Series and what they're going to build up to it with Clash in Paris. I honestly think that it's going to be a big step, because now we're going to be starting into fall with this pay-per-view coming up tomorrow or today, and I'm excited to see how they deal with it. You know what I mean? It's gonna be cool to see them how they cook it up.
Yeah, so let's just kind of break down the matches and kind of talk about how we got to these points. I guess we should mention, since I haven't talked about this yet, one match obviously that was supposed to happen that got taken off for good reasons was Naomi was supposed to defend the Women's World Heavyweight Championship against Stephanie Vaquer. Obviously that didn't happen now because Naomi obviously is pregnant now, so obviously she had to vacate the championship. Obviously very happy for her. If you watched us podcast after it was released, we find out like all the complications that led to it. Obviously it's kind of terrible timing for her career, obviously, because obviously she had to kind of do it on top, very Becky Lynch style, and she like had been busting her ass to get there. And when she gets to the top of the mountain, she has to vacate the belt. However, she's been trying to have a kid for a while. It looked like it was probably never going to happen, and then finally it was able to happen. So I'm really happy for her in that sense. Sometimes it's just got to be those moments where if you can, if you feel like you're going to place your life to finally be a mother, then definitely take that opportunity. The career is always going to be here, and now as we've seen with Becky Lynch, it doesn't necessarily mean in the wrestling business anymore. Once you have kids and everything like that, that your career is over. Like your career can still continue and everything like that. So that's a positive. I still think they should have found a way to squeeze in a women's world heavyweight title match, since they've known for a few weeks that Naomi got pregnant. They had an easy match they could have booked with Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer, since they've had a couple of matches that didn't have a decisive finish, and that was an easy story to tell. That way, you get a killer women's match on the show. But yeah, overall, how do you kind of feel about that match being held off? Do you think they should have tried to still squeeze in a women's world title match, or do you think they should have? Do you think they were smart on waiting?
Yeah, I was thinking that actually, because it makes me wonder. Like, do you think they may like fill the time in with something else, like a pretty interesting moment to happen in there, with like the match not being there anymore? I wonder how they're gonna fill that time now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting.
Yeah. I think a couple matches that probably got added. I'll probably fill in the time, but we'll have to wait and see. But let's just get right into it. We have talk about the 6 matches that are on the show. One that was added last night / Friday, depending on when this is up. It's the Wyatt Sixes, Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis defending the WWE Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits. This has a nice little story to it. The Wyatt Six beat the Street Profits to become WWE Tag Team Champions, and they've been involved in a lot of brawls. Especially they were a part of that TLC match at SummerSlam. And then they had like kind of a mini tournament on SmackDown. I kind of decide new number one contenders that the Street Profits won. They had to go through a lot of top tag teams like DIY and Mellow Miz. Yeah, pretty solid story. I actually really like the SmackDown tag division. I think it's on fire. I think it's the best tag division in all of wrestling at the moment, is the SmackDown tag division. I think you have a lot of tag teams, and it has a lot. They have a lot of really good depth and characters. And I'm very interested in this. As for I think we'll win this match, I think the Wyatt Six are going to keep the championships. I don't really see a reason to take the belts off of the Wyatt Six. I think they're doing some good work with the titles. They also just beat the Street Profits pretty recently, so I don't really see them going back to the Street Profits. But I say the Wyatt Six win. What are your thoughts on kind of how we got to this match, and who do you think is going to win it?
Yeah, I think you put it pretty much nailed it on the head, where it's like it kind of would lose their momentum if they lost it after they just won it early July. You know what I mean? So the fact that it would just look bad with the fans overall, obviously, if they won it back, it's just the back and forthness. It'd be like kind of confusing. So I think honestly, I think the Street Profits won't win this match, but I think it will be a close one. I think it could be the opener. I think it'd be a cool way to open it up, get the people going, because Street Profits with their athleticism, and the Wyatt Six with their charisma when it comes to interesting them with their mysterious personality. I think it would be a great collaboration for possibly, like I said, the opener match. But yeah, I honestly believe the Street Profits don't win this match, but at some point will get the titles down the line. But not at this pay-per-view, though.
All right, and then we have the next match on the show. It's the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. It's Becky Lynch defending against Nikki Bella. This feud's been pretty solid, ever since SummerSlam. The Raw after SummerSlam, they've both been going back and forth with each other on the microphone. This feud has a lot of history behind it, from when Becky Lynch first got caught up and had to take down Team Bella at the time, and then obviously Nikki Bella went away pretty shortly afterwards, and then Becky Lynch has built her name up and became the woman in WWE, and now with Nikki Bella having this comeback, it's finally time for her to challenge for the IC title. They've been giving a lot of really good jabs at each other. I've been pretty into this feud. I think ever since Becky Lynch got the Women's Intercontinental Championship, the belt's been pretty prestigious because, obviously Becky Lynch is one of the top women, so they obviously want to make sure she gets featured a lot. I don't know if this is one of the matches that was added because we didn't get Naomi versus Stephanie Vaquero. If this match would have just happened anyways, I'm not too certain on that. But if I had to say who wins this match, I don't really see Becky Lynch losing the Women's Intercontinental Championship. I think she's doing some pretty good work as a heel right now. They could give Nikki Bella a feel-good moment, potentially, and then have Becky win the belt back, but I just don't really see them taking the belt off Becky Lynch, especially with whatever's going on with Bayley. I feel like, depending on how that goes, I think that could tie into this match, but I'm going to say Becky Lynch retains the championship. What about you?
It's pretty interesting because we were talking about earlier how, unfortunately, the Stephanie and the Naomi match didn't happen because of the pregnancy. I think WWE looked at it where it's like, okay, we still have a women's match in the card, and even though it's for a mid-card title, it's still two Hall of Famers, battling it out. So it kind of like weighs it up a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they both have a pretty big history. They both have a pretty great career, both of them. So maybe that was their thought process with it too, where it's like, at least we have this match. I honestly believe, so with Bayley coming back and doing what she did to Becky at SummerSlam, I think Becky is going to get an interference from Bayley, like gonna try to, and kind of like a distraction thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but Becky's on her toes. You know, she's on her toes. I think she'll try to distract her, but it won't work. And it will feed into maybe a potential triple threat down the line. But I think Becky, she wins it. But I don't think it'll be as close as the tag team match. You know, I don't think it'll be as long. I don't think it'll be as close. I think Becky's on her game. You did say Nikki's been doing pretty good since her comeback, but I don't know. I think it will turn into a triple threat with Becky winning, and it will be a good potential opener. That one could open it up as well.
Very much so. And then we have another match that, we didn't really expect to happen. It's Roman Reigns versus Big Bronson Reed with Paul Heyman ringside potentially. Obviously, a lot of layers to this feud. This started last year at Survivor Series when Bronson Reed took out Roman Reigns and joined Solo Sikoa's MFT's Bloodline team. And then, obviously, they didn't do much with it because then Bronson Reed got hurt from the War Games match. But then Bronson Reed joined the Vision when Seth Rollins started that up. And when Roman Reigns returned, he's been kind of wanted to go after the Vision. He wanted to go through each member to get to finally Seth Rollins. And they did a good job of that at SummerSlam. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso beat the Blondes at SummerSlam, but Roman didn't get the win, so he doesn't really feel like he got any closure from that. And then he got taken out the night after SummerSlam by Bronson Reed. At a few occasions now, Bronson Reed has stolen the shoes of Roman Reigns and has been wearing them around as like a necklace, like the Ula Fala, except now it's called the Shula Fala. And Roman Reigns is looking for payback. This feud's been pretty entertaining. I like Bronson Reed. I think he's a really good talent, and I think ever since he had that moment where he took out Seth Rollins after SummerSlam last year, he's just been on the rise, and I'm glad that injury didn't derail his momentum. Obviously, Roman Reigns is the biggest star in all of the professional wrestling business at the moment, so this elevates his stock by working with Roman Reigns. This one's a little tough to call. I definitely see Roman Reigns winning just because he's had a lot of, he's had a lot of thins. He's had to try to fight back for him. He's had a lot of underdog thins, and this will get him one step closer to Seth Rollins. I think it would be more interesting if Bronson Reed wins. That way it gets him a nice big victory on a big PLE, and it gives Roman Reigns more adversity to have to fight from. But I don't see that happening. I see Roman Reigns winning. I don't think it's going to hurt Bronson Reed. It probably won't help him either. He'll just kind of stay the same. But I think Roman Reigns is going to win to get him one step closer to try to get some payback on Seth Rollins. But obviously only time will tell if that happens. I would go the other way and have Bronson Reed wins, but what I actually think will happen, the prediction I have, is Roman Reigns winning. But what do you think of all this?
I think Bronson is going to get the win. Reason being, it's kind of like the analogy of SummerSlam 2010, where John regretted it. He said that Nexus should have won. They had the momentum. There's more of a legacy, obviously, with John and Roman in their situations. So not that they could afford a loss. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one wants to lose, but there's more weight to fall back on for the two of them in their PLE situations. 2010 with John, 2025 with Roman. I feel honestly, like you said, Bronson's been on a roll lately. Gladly the injury didn't stop him. So I think what a great way to shoot him up more stock, not only for him, but also for the group that he's in of the Vision. I think it would be a great way to boost him. I think he will win, but it's kind of like the thing that Punk said on the Cabana podcast years ago. You want to make Roman look strong. So I think he's going to lose. Roman's going to lose, but they're going to do it in a way where it benefits both of them. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. Bronson ends up with the W, you know?
They could do something with Braun Breaker, like interferes in the match, or Paul Heyman interferes. They could do a lot of interference, and then Bronson Reed wins. But
because also... sorry. There's with also, I think, honestly, I mean, me and you remember back in like 2016, 2017, not only is Roman probably one of the most loved people in the business right now, back then, almost 10 years ago, he was one of the most hated people, especially after he beat Taker at Mania. And I felt that's because he was pushed down our throats. So I feel like if he has more adversity, the fans will not only like. I feel like they adore him more. Like he comes back from the adversity. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why some people unfortunately are turning their backs on Cody a little bit. But I feel like with Roman, if he's not always winning everything, the fans will like him more, you know?
Yeah, so and it makes his story when he gets his revenge on Seth Rollins even more interesting. That's why Punk is so well liked right now, which we'll get to, because he's had a lot of adversity since he's come back and everything like that. But continuing, we have the next match. It's a good old fashioned Downey Book match, which is basically no DQ. It's going to be like that pub style match that they do a lot. We've seen, and it's a Sheamus staple match. It's Sheamus versus Rusev. Obviously, these two have been feuding for years. When Rusev first came to the main roster, his first singles title win was when he beat Sheamus for the U.S. title, and then obviously they were in the League of Nations together, and then obviously Rusev has been was gone for a while, and when he came back, he was kind of starting to bully people, and Sheamus was standing up to him, and obviously they've been really putting up their history back then. They've had a couple matches on Raw where each have a victory, and then one got thrown out, and they've been doing a lot of brawls on Raw recently. I've been into this feud. I like Rusev's character. I like that they've taken his character from AEW that he was doing towards the end, where it was like his god, but they've obviously tweaked it a little bit. But I like that they've kept that the same. And I've been into these two, like having a match and everything like that. As for who wins, I think this is kind of the same thing, like I said, with the Roman Reigns Bronson Reed match, but on a different level. I think Rusev needs to win this. It's his first major feud since he's come back to WWE. And I think it's going to do a lot for him if he wins. This could lead him to other things. It's really kind of tough, though, because I don't know where he really goes if he wins, just because the main event scene's kind of too loaded for him right now. The IC title scene, unless AJ Styles wins the IC title on Raw this upcoming week, I don't really see him factoring into that. So it's really tough. At the same time with Sheamus, obviously because he wants to go for that IC title. That's the only thing he has to do to become a Grand Slam champion. There's always that he can go after. But I think Rusev really needs to win this match. It's his first major feud since he's come back. It will make him look really dominant, and he can just continuously progress up the card. And he doesn't necessarily have to challenge for a title after this. He could go after the next top guy on Raw, whether that's like an LA Knight or maybe AJ Styles. He cost him the IC title. There's a lot of things he can do. I think if Sheamus wins this match, I don't really think much really changes in his career. I think it's just another win for him. I think this would do more benefit to Rusev to win this than Sheamus. So I'm going to say Rusev wins the good old-fashioned Downey Book match. What about you?
I am interested in the feud and the match, and especially the style. I'm glad it's not just a regular one-on-one match. The only thing is just a little bit of the build-up. I feel like they've recycled too many of the same ideas when it comes to them facing off on Raw. I'm a big component of certain matches waiting until the PLE, because if they face off one-on-one, not much of a difference when the PLE happens except the stipulation. So like I wish they configured it a little bit different, but it's still interesting if that makes sense. So with Sheamus, I wouldn't say he's as much of a pushover in his career currently as unfortunately The Miz is. Barely getting TV time. When you see him, it's pretty much for a segment. He's most likely going to lose. So I'm not going to say that Sheamus is at that point where Mr. Mizanin is right now, but he's definitely closer to the end than he is to the beginning. And I think Rusev probably has a little bit more momentum right now because, there's more for him to prove. Sheamus already has that resume that we all know of. Rusev needs more meat to add to his career, especially the fact that WWE went out of their way to pursue him post AEW. So you can already tell that they're probably thinking of something down the line if they're willing to make that big business decision. Like I said, I am a big fan of the stipulation. I think Rusev does win it. I think, unfortunately, because I'm a big Sheamus guy, grew up with him. I think, unfortunately, it would be less of a bout than the other ones that we talked about. It won't be as close. I think they're just going to make him dominant. They're going to make Rusev just show how much of a badass he is, so that way down the line, they just add a list of people for him to dominate. And I think this is just the start of a run that he's going to be on down the line.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big Rusev guy. So, and I don't know if you watched past episodes of when it used to be Massasoit Wrestling Corner. This channel is a big Rusev guy. But that could be a story for another day. But the next top two matches you could really flip about which one main events. Obviously, one of them's the title match, and one of them is John Cena's first and only appearance wrestling wise in Paris. But I'll do the world title match first. It's a fatal 4-way match for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's Seth Rollins defending against CM Punk, Jey Uso, and LA Knight. Obviously, there's loads of storylines going on here. Seth Rollins obviously pulled off that ruse where he faked his injury and cashed in the World Heavyweight Championship on CM Punk right after he won it. That feud between Seth Rollins and CM Punk has been going on since CM Punk pretty much came back to WWE. They've been going in that direction where Seth Rollins absolutely hates CM Punk. I mean, honestly, it's been... I mean, it hasn't just been going on since he came back to WWE. It's been going on since... what was the name of that show? Backstage, when CM Punk was an analyst and Seth Rollins tweeted at him.
Yeah.
And everything like that. And obviously they've had matches on Netflix premiere, and then obviously at MSG in the cage match, and then that triple threat where Paul Heyman betrayed CM Punk and Roman Reigns. But the other people in this match have some history. Obviously when Seth Rollins faked his injury, it was in that match with LA Knight, and it caused LA Knight to beat Seth Rollins, and they had a world title match the night after SummerSlam that CM Punk ruined for LA Knight. Jey Uso obviously fits into the story because he hasn't had his rematch when he lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Gunther. He got the win at SummerSlam, which is good for him. And then he's been kind of involved in this stuff with the Vision as of late, where he's been kind of helping out Punk or Sami Zayn when he was kind of involved in this feud. So yeah, a lot of movement elements. They've been kind of doing a lot of things with CM Punk and LA Knight, where they've been kind of going at it with each other. And then they did that thing with Jey Uso, laid out both guys, because Roman Reigns wants Jey Uso to kind of start to think for himself a little bit. And there's kind of some tension between Roman Reigns and CM Punk, obviously, from War Games last year. So I'm pretty into this Fatal 4-Way match. I could have done a little less with the predictability of how the Raws have ended, because we had a couple of Raws with the Vision was just laying out all the baby faces and everything like that. I'm glad we've gotten a little bit of a change up as of late. But I'm pretty into this Fatal 4-Way match. As for I think wins, I think Seth Rollins retains the World Heavyweight Championship. He just won it, and I think there's still a lot of life you can do with him as World Heavyweight Champion. Obviously, there's still a lot of opponents he can face, like some of these guys in a one-on-one match. There's still that Roman match that couldn't be for the world title. There's some of the guys on Raw he could face. If AJ Styles wants to step up, he can face Seth Rollins. And I think the Vision's a pretty interesting faction. So there's still a lot of things that can happen with Seth Rollins. So I'm going to say that Seth Rollins retains the world title. CM Punk doesn't have to eat the pin either. It's probably going to be either Jey or LA Knight that takes the pin. And obviously, because it's a 4-way match, Seth Rollins can have Breakker or Bronson Reed interfere. An interesting thing that could happen that would be nice is maybe Roman Reigns tries to prevent the interference and cost Seth the match, but that's probably not going to happen. That really wouldn't make sense. But I say Seth Rollins retains. I think he's doing some good work right now. But yeah, what do you think?
I've been going back and forth whether I think this one's going to be the main event or the one that we're going to be talking about next. I honestly believe that this will be the main event for many reasons. The build up to it, Seth, I mean, I am the biggest Phil Brooks guy you'll probably ever meet. I love him. I've met him twice, met him in Long Island, met him in Philly for WrestleMania 40. I'm a huge Punk guy. When I saw that happen at SummerSlam, I was like, of course. Of course, this happens. My luck. It's been pretty tough being a Punk fan for a while with the injuries and the close matches and the rivals and all that stuff. But it makes interesting television, even though like I said, I am a Punk guy. Unfortunately, I don't think he wins because it's kind of like the tag team match where they just won the titles. If we take him off now, it would just look bad. It would honestly make them look weak, obviously, but then just like make it a confusing story down the line. Have it be a couple months, and then we'll see what happens when it comes to who wins the title down the line. I do think Seth wins it, but how it ends though is really interesting though. Unfortunately, I think LA will probably take the pin. Because Jay's one of the biggest baby faces, got a great fan base, really good at being over with the crowd. Punk, he's basically a little bit lower than Roman when it comes to one of the biggest faces. Probably also because of the adversities that we're talking about, because fans love a good adversity story, kind of like the Daniel WrestleMania 30 story. So they love stuff like that. So I think, honestly, unfortunately, LA Knight will probably take the pin, even though I feel like he deserves better. I honestly had a brain fart, my friend, because at first I was thinking, I was like, why is Jay in this? Like, he just feels like he doesn't belong. But then I remembered when you said that he didn't have the rematch yet. And then I was like, yes, that's what it is. Because I'm like, not that Jay is a little stale for me right now, but I can see why other people don't feel that way, if that makes any sense. So I see him in there. He's still over with those legendary fans, but I'm like, now that I know that he hasn't had the rematch, it makes more sense. But I honestly believe Seth will pin LA in a controversial fashion. Hopefully it won't be as extravagant as the WrestleMania 40 Night 2 main event of all the crazy interferences, but hopefully it's like kind of like what you said, where the Vision comes out, but then other people interfere for the faces. It makes it a little bit less predictable. But in the end, no matter what, unfortunately, I think my guy's biggest rival, Seth, will win by pinning LA Knight.
And then that brings us to the last match here that could also be the main event. It's his first and final time wrestling in Paris on television. I don't know if he's wrestled on like a house show before this or anything like that. It's John Cena versus Logan Paul. We don't have a lot of time left with John Cena. Obviously, his last year has been very hit or miss. The heel turn itself, when it happened, was very good, but the heel run really didn't land like a lot of people have. But we've got some good matches with the Randy Ortons, the CM Punks, the Fun R-Truth match that we got at Saturday night's main event. And then obviously the match with Cody, where was one of the best matches at SummerSlam, probably one of the best matches this year. And now we're finally, I think, going to get like a good, proper goodbye to John Cena. He's finally back to being a babyface that didn't swerve us and just turn it back heel. Logan Paul, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't have wanted him to be one of John Cena's last opponents. I'm one of the few people that did, just because I think this does a lot of views for the company. It's one of the last chances we can see this, and it's a good first opponent for John Cena to have, being back babyface, because obviously Logan Paul is very much hated. And I actually think they could have like a nice little match right here. Obviously they have history from when they tagged together, going into Money in the Bank, which they didn't really bring up because I think they want to not bring up John Cena's heel run as much as possible. Overall, I've been pretty into this. Obviously, it's John Cena's been roasting Logan Paul on the mic these last couple of weeks, which has been very good. They did that segment on SmackDown last week where Logan Paul laid him out. Yeah, I think this would be good. This would be a true test for Cena because some of his matches have been very hit or miss this year. I think, I talked about this when the WrestleMania 39 happened. It seemed like he had lost a step a little bit in the ring. But then, he had that good match with Solo in Saudi. And then he looked good in the Rumble. He looked good in the Chamber. But then WrestleMania 41's main event wasn't very good. But again, we don't know if that was on purpose or not. The Backlash match was pretty solid with Randy. Our Truth match was kind of a nothing, so I can't really judge that one. He looked good in the tag match at Money in the Bank. He looked good in the match with CM Punk, but they kind of smoke and mirrors that one a little bit. And then the Cody match was awesome. So this will be a true test since Logan Paul's not someone that really wrestles pretty regularly. And again, he's like John Cena said, he's only had like 23 matches. So Logan Paul is not really a ring veteran. So John Cena's going to be like the veteran here. Be interested to see what happens. As for I think wins this match, really could go either way, but I'm gonna say John Cena wins. I think Logan Paul can afford a loss here. He's just got so much heat, and he's so good on the microphone and good at just making himself hateable. I think it doesn't really matter if he wins or loses. He's gonna draw money, and draw that audience regardless of if he wins or loses. Yeah, I say John Cena wins. It's going to be a feel-good moment for Cena. And I really don't have anything more to say other than that. Do we get Brock Lesnar? Obviously, because we haven't seen Brock since he's been back at SummerSlam. And, WrestlePalooza's coming up. I think John Cena's announced for that show. It's going to be WWE's first pay-per-views / PLE on ESPN. I imagine they'll want to do a big match, and Brock Lesnar will bring the eyeballs in since he's been on ESPN before with his UFC run and everything like that. So I think we very much could see Brock Lesnar here. So John Cena having a nice victory would be nice. They could shock us too and have Brock Lesnar cost John Cena this match, and that way Logan Paul can get a win, but I don't think that's going to happen. I say John Cena wins, but overall, what do you think about all of this?
I do believe that the heel run definitely could have been done differently. A little bit too much Travis Scott for my liking. I don't know why he was in the build and then not showing up, and then Rock just not showing up at all either. It was a pretty historic moment. Like, that one moment was pretty cool, but just the build up to it after, it's like it could have been done much better. I am glad that a lot of his rivals are available for the final run, because obviously years ago Punk was doing other things. Years ago Randy was injured, and years ago, unfortunately, Brock was going through what he was going through behind the scenes. So the fact that it's perfect enough, like, it hasn't been done perfectly storyline wise, but just the fact situationally based that some of his biggest rivals are able to wrestle in this run is amazing. When years ago it probably couldn't happen, but the fact that we got everyone but one. We talked about him earlier. I wish he could join Edge, but that's for another time. But the fact that we got most of his rivals for one of the greatest of all time is very well deserved. Definitely could have been handled differently, but it's like what you said earlier when you talked about how this match is going to go. Logan, very polarizing. Obviously very hated by some of the diehard wrestling fans, because it's like, who is this guy coming from the entertainment business going in there? He's kind of proved himself a little bit, because he's done better than a lot of the other celebrities that have wrestled. He has some sort of a moveset. He did some amateur wrestling in college and stuff, so he has some idea what's going on. But it's still the factor was like, who does this guy think he is, getting these spots that some people would dream to have? It's like I said, exactly what you said. The fact that it's going to bring more eyeballs to the product. It's going to bring a lot of mainstream people who aren't usually into the business that we love watching it and being like, wow. Because not only do they know Logan, they're also going to watch, most likely most of them are going to know who John is. He's one of the most universally known wrestling stars of all time. So they're going to look at both of them and be like, holy crap, this is big. So that's why I'm back and forth on whether this one's going to main event or the title match. I don't know, honestly. I did say the world title match earlier, but now that I put it into perspective, these two are massive, massive names. And honestly, I think if Brock comes out, like, if there's a chance that Brock comes out, like, if they announce and say it's the main event, I think Brock's going to come out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they won't end off, like, you know what I mean? Like, unless there's a massive swerve that we have for us in the world title match. I think how this goes is, I think honestly, It's when I'm looking through social media and I see that some people called the fake injury. Some people called the Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman guy. So I don't want to seem like the guy who's saying what other people are saying, but it is facts, though. I do think Brock will come out. I think he will come out, but will that mean him costing John the win? This is where it gets risky, though, because we don't want Brock to, like, if he comes out, we don't want him to, like, look bad. He hasn't been there in, like, in 2 years. SummerSlam 23, I think, was the last time he was on TV.
Yep.
And if he comes out and doesn't do what he needs to do, what does that look like for his future, for his first feud back? But then at the same time, it's John's farewell run. But it's kind of like what we talked about with Punk and Roman, where we know John's had a lot of adversities throughout his career. So how I think it plays out, you know, when wrestlers come out and they don't interfere, but they'll come out, like their entrance theme will come out and they'll be on the ramp, but they won't go into the ring.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a distraction. I think he'll come out and not even walk down the ramp. Brock will come out, not walk down the ramp. I think Logan will do a true heel move and unfortunately cost John the match. Get even more heat than he already has. And WrestlePalooza, John, Brock. What a way to start off ESPN. Which I have a question, my friend.
Sure.
You know, the podcast, because we're both legendary podcast hosts. The podcast host in me is amped to ask you this question, my friend. If it's all right to ask you a question on your show, is that okay?
Go for it. Go for it.
What does my friend think will look like for the rest of the John run until December 13th, which is, I think, the Boston event? So how do you see the rest of this playing out?
And how many dates does he have left? Because he said he had 11 dates left after SummerSlam, and he's had 2 of them since. So he's got 9 dates left. So I think Brock will be WrestlePalooza. I'm seeing this online, and I actually could see this happening when we get that War Games match, because John's never done War Games. I think when we get the Vision, maybe Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre or something like that versus CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, LA Knight, and then John Cena will be like the last entrant in the War Games match, because Cena hasn't done War Games, and that's pretty interesting. Do I want that to happen? I'm not sure, just because it really doesn't make sense to be involved in that feud, since he hasn't been much of a factor in that. But I could just see Cena wanted to do a War Games match, as he hasn't done one yet. I think a match with Dominic Mysterio is going to happen. I don't know if it will be on TV or what, just because a lot of people wanted that match. And I think his last match... Okay, what I want his last match to be, and a lot of people said this and this would be cool, would be The Rock to come back. And, obviously John Cena will want revenge, because when he turned heel, The Rock kind of abandoned him and everything like that. So The Rock can be like, like, you sold your soul to me type of thing. But now you can't just go back. So The Rock wants to ruin John Cena's retirement tour. And at that show in Boston, The Rock faces Cena. And we get, like, the third match in that trilogy. And The Rock sends Cena home, pretty much. And, that gets The Rock a lot of heat. But again, I don't really trust The Rock to be involved in storylines, because then they'll do that with The Rock. And then he may not be there. Because there's been a few storylines with The Rock recently that we thought were going to get set up, and then they didn't come into fruition, like the whole 3 Thin at Bad Blood. Obviously, I think what was meant to happen with what was going on with Solo taking over the Bloodline, I think that was meant to be Rock, and then it didn't happen, and then obviously John Cena's heel turn, he kind of vanished. The last match, I actually think, will be Gunther. I think Gunther's going to be the last match. He's like a good final boss character. And I think it's going to do a lot of wonders if Gunther's the one that sends Cena home. Because now we have, if Brock's still there, now we have Brock Lesnar back. We were supposed to have this match at WrestleMania last year. Had all that Brock stuff not come out with Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. That's a very good final boss match because they're both final boss type of characters. Not the Rock final boss. I mean, when I say final boss, I mean they're both destroyers. They're both, they both wreck shop in different ways as athletes and everything like that. And if Gunther, and it makes sense because Gunther works to send him home. He retired Goldberg, and he's Triple H is big into Gunther. I think Gunther's the last match. So to re-answer your question, I think we get this match. We get Brock at WrestlePalooza. Squeeze in Dominic Mysterio somewhere in there because I think that one really works. I would like Carmelo Hayes because obviously Carmelo Hayes is a big John Cena guy. But I think they missed the boat on that because SmackDown was in Boston a few weeks ago. That's probably where they should have done it. But and then I think he's a surprise member in the War Games match. And then I think I think that it's Gunther. What I want is The Rock, but I think then it's Gunther. And I think that fits the rest of his dates. I would like it if just because I feel like we got robbed a little bit of his time in store by that heel turn. I would like it if Cena extends it to WrestleMania next year, so that way we don't have a lot of his final run can still be him with a baby face. And even though he's going out in Boston most likely, it really I think it makes more sense for him to go out at WrestleMania versus Boston. And but because John Cena's a man of his word, he's probably got some movie roles lined up too for next year already that he probably can't get out of probably at this point. So I don't see, but I don't know. He did say on an interview recently that that match with Cody at SummerSlam reinvigorated something in him. So maybe he says, I'm gonna go till WrestleMania. The only reason I don't see that happening is because then WWE's false advertised 2025. So I'm just I don't really see WWE going back on that. But you never know. I don't really think people would be mad if the retirement tour got extended either, though. I don't think they'd be robbed. So that's what I think his last one will be. What about you? What do you see his last stretch of time being?
That is very true what you said about the false advertising. When they did the Once in a Lifetime with Rock and Cena, and then it's the dream that you want that I would be a fan of too, of December of 3 times a lifetime of Rock and Cena. That'd be cool. But yeah, I honestly, that's what's interesting because he's one of those people that when he says something, it's more believable than others.
Yeah.
Some people would say, "Oh, I'm done here," but they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll see you in 3 years as a random Royal Rumble entrant," But with him, I don't know why. I just have this feeling in my bones. I'm I think it's unfortunately probably the end. He'll still show up, but it's kind of like the thing of Taker has retired the dead man persona. No matter where he is, he won't come out with the whole gear and stuff. I think we'll obviously see John again, but when it comes to match type of stuff, unfortunately, it'll probably be December 13th. Definitely, obviously, a Brock one. That would probably be the ESPN because that is true, like you said, the UFC history that he has. I honestly believe that they're crossing a lot of boxes off, obviously, and War Games is something that he's never done before, and they've teased it a little bit with the Vision. Those segments that he's getting a little snippy with Seth even before he turned face, so they're kind of teased it a little bit. That would be a very stacked team that you mentioned on the face side. Yeah. When you said it, I was in goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, you got Punk, Roman, Jay, Cena, and who was the other person that you said? LA, right?
LA Knight, yeah.
That would, wow. Oh my gosh. If they got a picture with all of those humans on one shirt, it would fly off the shelves. That would be a great team. But I think, yeah, because I don't know. I honestly do think he will be in the War Games match, but who his teammates are going to be, that'll be a sight to see as well. This is where it gets interesting because it's those many rivals, those many feuds that you were talking about Carmelo and Dom, like, well, we want to see it, but how would they fit it in? That's where it gets interesting. If only he was at that Boston SmackDown. Isn't that funny? He was at all these dates, and when they finally comes back. But I think there is a SmackDown or Raw in Springfield, even though it's not Boston, Massachusetts based. So maybe they can do a little program for that show with Carmelo.
Yeah.
Because he's also from Mass too. Carmelo's from Mass, right?
He is, yeah. Boston, Massachusetts.
So they could do that. And then the Dom, that would be so cool to see. That'd be so cool to see. But then when it comes to the end, it's what's so interesting. I've never seen a thing in the business that we love so much, my friend, of so many different takes on it. Like, I see wrestling fans, even people who directly work for the business, giving different takes on it, giving different ideas on it. Like, there are some things in sports that you say and it's universally agreed on. It's like, oh, I think this team will win. Oh, I think this person's going to have this type of trajectory in their career. But when it comes to John's final match, it's so interesting because everyone has different ideas. I've never seen anything like it. Honestly, I mean, you've probably seen the idea of, they floated out the idea of him and Braun. I'm guessing you've seen that probably.
Blanco, yeah, I've seen that one, yeah.
But the only thing is, we were talking about the War Games, and he would be involved in it. And even though it's not one-on-one, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier about the Sheamus and Rusev thing. It kind of gets the mystique out if you do the one-on-one or a match where they're involved in it. So I want John's last match to be someone super high profile or someone that they've never faced before. So one of those two realms. And I think it will end off with John Cena versus, I mean, in a perfect world, I kind of teased it in your episode today of, Adam. I don't know what October it ends, though, because some people are saying October of this year for his contract. Some people are saying October of next year. But if it's October of this year, I would absolutely adore that. I would love Adam versus Cena because that is literally his biggest rivals. In my opinion, and it goes Punk number one. Punk's my top wrestler of all time. But I think Edge, his rivalry with Cena was more memorable than Punk and Cena.
Yeah.
So I think what better way to end off. But that's like fantasy booking because we don't know for sure what his details are, how any of that's going to work. In a perfect world, I'm thinking positive here. I'm like, okay, maybe they're doing the program with Edge and Christian in AEW because that will be his final storyline with his best friend. And then he can finish it off with Cena. And maybe they can both retire from that match. Wouldn't that be cool? A double retirement match?
That would be cool. The unfortunate thing about that too, though, even if his contract's up in October, because Tony Khan can add injury time to it because he was injured after Double or Nothing last year. So unfortunately, even if Edge wanted to leave AEW, there's that injury time thing. And as you know, Tony Khan isn't afraid to add injury time to wrestlers' contracts, type of thing. I know I hate to break your heart there, but that's just how it.
That's a huge heel move on his part because him being a huge wrestling fan, I wish he would put it aside just for this one moment because this is like the power in his hands he must feel because if it does end on October 2025, he can probably look at it and be like, he could literally change the trajectory of wrestling history books because he has the power, whether to make it Edge Cena final time, or he could be like he can add the injury time, like you said. So he's like Thanos. He has all the power in his hand, and he can see what he does with it. But in all honesty, that's fantasy booking. Unfortunately, on my part, Rock, like you said, he's unreliable. So in the end, I think it will be John versus, and I apologize, my friend. I did a very long mention of this just for me to say in the end, I do agree with you. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Gunther, I think it'll be him. I think it'll be him, and especially if he beats him, nuclear heat.
Yeah.
God, that would be holy. That'd be that'd be one of the biggest heel moves I've seen in my life. One of the goats in his hometown. Especially if he like did the thing that heel Cena said of like, oh, I want to ruin wrestling. I want to have boring moveset matches. If he beats him in a way like that, oh my gosh, it would break the internet. But I do think it'll be Gunther. But the question is, if who wins? That's where it's risky. Because I don't know. John, before he knew he was retiring, he unfortunately went on that horrible losing streak. He lost to Austin Theory in the last Vince Mania in 39. So he's willing to help younger talent. But now we're talking about his last match. Now we're talking about the last match people will remember him for. But then we can, because if you think about it, Gunther, if Hunter loves Gunther, he's still going to have a good career regardless of what happens. I think the fact that he'd be in the match in the first place, I think win or lose, he'll be good. So I think it will be John, but it will be a close match with John winning in the end.
I think the other way. I think, it's too much. It's too good of a moment, especially if Gunther chokes out Cena. That would, like he did Goldberg in his retirement, or better yet, if Gunther tapped out Cena, that would be nuclear.
Oh my gosh, that would be okay. That one right there, that'd be the biggest heat. That'd be the biggest heat because all those I Quit matches that we see him do, like against Batista and stuff. I think it was that Randy Orton bragging rights match, right, where he tied his neck along the
Yeah.
like even that. So if Gunther somehow found a way to tap Cena of all people in his hometown, his final match, he would be hated by some people to the end of time, forever.
And that's something that's on his resume for the rest of his like Block when he beat Taker. That was on his resume for like the rest of his career.
Oh, yes. No, I agree. I agree, my friend. That is true. That is true. It's going to be interesting. I cannot wait to see how Hunter does it. It's going to be so cool. And I like how they added the Unreal documentary. Did you watch that yet? The Unreal documentary?
I watched the first 3 episodes. I still got to watch the last 2, but it was very good. I think I'm on the episode when Cena's about to go heel, so I still got to watch that one.
I really like how they I'm a mix of both on it, where it's like I kind of hate that kayfabe is dying. Well, it's been dead for a while, but like it's officially the nail in the coffin with that documentary. That right there, it is. Even though it is cool to see the behind the scenes, but it's cool because we're talking about it right now on the podcast, and they're probably in Stamford, Connecticut right now discussing how they want to end the heel run. You know what I mean? Like they're probably putting the final touches on it. You know what I mean? So It's interesting. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan, and I'm excited to see where the sport goes next post Cena, because you had all this bloodline stuff. Now, obviously, this year has been dedicated to John, so now the real test is seeing what they do after these 2 major stories. Like, where do they bounce back from this? And I'm confident it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We've done our class in Paris and then kind of booked what we think John Cena's last year will be. Let's kind of end this off. It was fun having you on. I'm glad we were able to make this work, and it seemed like it went well. We were both able to kind of go back and forth with each other. So I hope I could have you on again, or vice versa. Like you said, I could come on your show at some point. But yeah, let's end this off. Before we get off of here, usually I like to let people plug or promote any shows they have coming up. Or like, just plug something. Sometimes people have nothing to plug, so they make a joke and say they'll plug a lamp in. But what do you? I know you have something that you've been doing for a little while that you told me about. What is it that you have?
I have a podcast that I started in mid-January of this year called the Peterson Podium. We record either at BSU of Bridgewater State or UMass Boston. My goal is to have people of all different walks of life talk about literally any topic. And we've actually, I think I've had some wrestling fans, some legendary people who are wrestling fans, but you'd definitely be one of the biggest wrestling fans to have on there. That would be a very cool time. We have all different topics, all great people, all awesome vibes. And the Peterson Podium, it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, a bunch of platforms. So it's if you search up Peterson Podium podcast on Google, the link tree will pop up of a bunch of different links to find with social media or places to watch in general with audio and visual. I'm T Peterson with a O, so obviously Peter and then son 921 T Peterson 921 on Instagram, and we are two legendary wrestling fans with bright futures. So thank you for giving me not only the opportunity to plug my socials in, but also for letting me on your show. We finally made it happen, and I would love to come on again one day. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we could see if we could definitely make it work. So, as for my stuff, obviously you can check out this channel. We've been a little slow this year. We've done a lot of Aftershocks, but my friend Chris and I are gonna really sit down. We had planned on doing, since it's John Cena's final year, of picking 15 wrestling shows each to do a retro wrestling review series to review past shows that John Cena's a very big influence on. And we're gonna start doing that next week. The 2 episodes will be his whole run as the prototype before he became John Cena, and then obviously his big main roster debut on SmackDown when he faced Kurt Angle in his first match. Again, if you have a past show very influenced by John Cena you want to do, you're more than welcome to do it. You're just gonna watch the show and obviously make sure everyone has access to the show to watch it, type of thing. And then my non-wrestling channel, Owen the Talkinator. My cousin and AJ and I finally got through the hurdle and got all the stuff we wanted to get done. I just uploaded Avatar: The Last Airbender, chapter 1. Book 1, chapters 9 and 10, which was the Waterbed Scroll and the Jet episodes. Definitely check that out. And then I haven't uploaded it yet. I'm going to work on it, but within the next couple of days, we just watched the movie Inception and reviewed that. You can definitely check that out and see what we thought of Inception. And this week, we're going to be doing Dragon Ball, reviewing the episode where we meet the Oxkin and when the Kamehameha Wave makes its first appearance. So that will be fun. And then we're going to finally be getting ready to start Yellow Jackets Season 3. We're going to do the comparison video of Yellow Jackets and Red versus Blue, since they ended up being a lot more alike than you would think. We're going to do that next Tuesday. And then around September 15th, we'll really get into and start and do the first 3 episodes of Yellow Jackets. So got a lot of exciting things coming up in that sense. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching this video. Depending on when you watch this, hope you guys enjoy Clash in the Paris. I'm sorry. And we will talk to you guys later.